everyone. I am Bob Salas. I am the Director of Neighborhood and Family Services, and we have Morgan Wiggins, my assistant over here. We're here to provide some information on 6 proposed projects that are vying for tax credits to build affordable housing here in San Angelo. I'll start by giving an overview of what tax credits are. I'll show you a little bit about the projects, and then I'll turn it over to you for a Q&A. We happen to have representatives from all the developers up front here, and they'll be here to answer all your questions. Okay. So, what are tax credits? The program is kind of managed out of Austin. It's managed by the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs. It's one of the best tools to increase affordable housing stock, partnering with the private sector. Tax credits are awarded to participants to offset their federal tax liability. The program is highly competitive, and San Angelo happens to compete with Midland and Odessa in what we call Region 12 Urban. And only one project will win in the region. Each year, the TDHCA develops rules through a document called the QAP. The QAP outlines points that will be awarded based on several factors. Things like the quality of schools in the proposed project area, whether the city has a neighborhood revitalization plan, and whether the city supports the project through a resolution of support. And that's what we'll do. Come I think the 20th is on the council agenda, and we'll go forward asking for support, a letter of support for each of these projects. It's safe to say that developers, all of them, are very experienced and construct quality products using green building and water-saving features, Energy Star appliances, playgrounds, pools, and those kind of things. All very talented developers. Here are some of the approved projects that we've had in the past. In fact, the Bent Tree, this one here, that's the oldest. We built that in 1999. If you go by there, if you want to take a look what a project like this looks like, go there. You can see it's been there for almost 20 years, and it's still in pretty good shape. We have the Noah Estates. This one is single-family housing over there in the Blackshear neighborhood, which we won about 6 years ago. We have the River Place over there in Irene Street, and then we have the Kirby Park Villas, which is in the corner of Martin Luther King and 29th Street. If you go by there now, you'll see them being erected. We won those credits 2 years ago. And last year, we were able to win one other project, which is the Oak Trails, which is going to be elderly, a community for elderly duplexes it's going to be right here, in fact, near the Fort Contra area. So if you want to get an idea, go by those projects. So, like I said, we have 6 projects that are competing for these tax credits. We have Meadow Falls Apartments. The developer is VCZ Development. The project is proposed at 4665 Southland Boulevard. It is a family community of 76 units, 46 2-bedroom, 30 3-bedroom. And you can see you can see the location. It's right across from Bonham Elementary. And down the bottom picture, you can see that that's what the elevation looks like. So that's giving you an idea of what those apartments will look like. Then we have the Glen Park Apartments, again, by VCZ Development. That one's going to be over there towards Goodfellow Air Force Base, 4001 South Chadbourn. That will be 60 units family community with 36 2-bedroom and a 24 3-bedroom. And again, those elevations are down at the bottom. You can see what they're going to look like. We have a project called Cherry Trails by Four Corners Development Incorporated over there on Appaloosa Trail. That's behind the Boulevard Apartments, going on 67, going towards Merchant, right behind Sam's in the Sam's area. That's going to be for elderly, 60 units, and it's going to be single-story duplexes. You can see the elevation down at the bottom. Then we have one downtown, two-week plaza by Four Corners Development as well. They're going to renovate a couple of buildings. One is the San Angelo National Bank. That's where the Bayshore Insurance Company is right now, and the Junior League buildings. These are historic rehabilitation projects. They're for elderly, and there's going to be 30 one-bedroom and 32 bedroom, and will be adaptive reuse, which means that we'll have commercial at the lower levels. So they will have renters at the upper levels. And we have Balcony Flats by Herman and Kittle Properties at 913 West 33rd Street North. It's past the new Walmart going north out of town. It'll be 64 units, family community, 24 two-bedroom and 43 bedrooms. You can see what they look like down at the bottom, on the bottom picture there. And lastly, we have the trails, and that's going to be proposed, that is by the developers, by the Generation Housing Development, and it's going to be at the 2600 block of Era Street over there towards Goodfellow. And that will be 72 units for family community, and it'll be 12 one-bedroom, 36 two-bedroom, and 24 three-bedroom. And those are the six. I'm going to go ahead and leave this slide up here. At this point, I want to open it up to the floor for questions and comments. We do ask you that if you want to speak, please come to the microphone. This is being recorded. And one other comment. We have a council member that needs to leave in about 20 minutes. So if you could come forward, if you have questions or comments on Meadow Falls Apartment or Cherry Trails, we're going to try to take those comments and questions first. And at that point, then we'll go on to the other ones as well. So now I'll turn it over to you to come up and please state your name first and have your questions and comments.
My name is Robert Baxter, and I appreciate y'all coming here today and having this meeting so that we can offer our opinion. I'm an RN of 28 years, and one of the things that we do in our practice is to work off of data. So I have a question regarding data. Do you have any data from either a City of San Angelo perspective or the developers can provide from a historical perspective across America, where such housing can be demonstrated over time to either sustain value, decrease value, or improve value? And if you have that, to the area surrounding, and if you have that, my concern is with Meadow Falls Apartments. I'd be interested in seeing such data for consideration. If there is clear evidence that it sustains or increases value, that would probably take care of the greatest concern I have. I am not a person who questions investors or capitalism. I don't have that in me because I'm a believer that I want to make money and I want to see my family make money. As a result, I do want to know that the value of the houses surrounding Meadow Falls, live on Kensington Creek, I want to make sure that they're going to not be challenged in price. I would say, generally speaking, I don't know of apartments that bring up value. I would say they don't necessarily bring it down. It would depend on the targeting of them. I do have a daughter who's in her young 20s, who's about to graduate from nursing school, and she needed affordable housing. I am not anti-affordable housing, all right? And actually, I appreciate it because she could not have started her life without going out and having such an option. I do believe that when the council weighs out such situations, I would ask that y'all weigh it out in light of the impact it'll have on a surrounding area, the values and property values, and take that in with the heavy weight. Especially with the rarity of money involved, I would think you would want to invest it as wisely as possible for the maximal impact with the least derogatory impact. So somewhere in this message, what I hope you hear is that, I personally support housing. And by the way, I do have an uncle that also lives in one. And I'm thankful that such things exist. And I think it adds to the quality of the community. And America is built largely on compassion, and that's seen any time a need is demonstrated. Some of that compassion needs to be carefully weighed out and measured alongside of the homeowners and their fear for their investments. So when you're taking apartments and putting them right by a school, and a developing neighborhood, it does add a certain amount of concern. And some of that concern is quite high. And if y'all can provide data, strong data, that shows in other neighborhoods, communities across time especially, that values have increased or were sustained, then that would speak volumes. But if you cannot provide such data, my concern is that then the homes that are around there would either be stagnated or potentially compromised on the price down the road.
My name is Paul Holden, and I represent BCZ Development. And I don't have any nationwide data for you on what other developers have experienced. I can tell you that we've been building this type of product since 1987, and I do not know of any property that we have that has done anything to devalue houses around us. We do get this question on a very regular, thank you, on a very regular basis, because what happens is that when we come in, there is a fear factor for neighborhoods, because invariably they come to us and say, well, what kind of people are you going to have here? And there's a fear of the unknown. Now, what we are going to have here is 76 units, and our marketing plan is very, very simple. The first wave of marketing will go to seniors. We want them first. The second wave is going to be of every employee at the bottom elementary school. We'd love to have teachers there. We'd love to have any employee who works there, because we're going to have, of these 76, 16 of those units will be market rate. We can lease to anybody. We can charge any price that we want. The market's going to determine what that price is going to be. The remainder of them will be in several percentages of the average median income. The smallest percentage will be a very small. There will only be 6 units at that, and then it goes up from there. The majority are going to be at that 60% of the area's median income. Generally, that's what you're about the price of your apartments in San Angelo right now. So our market rate and our 60% rates are going to be very, very close. Do I have any concern about devaluation of your neighborhood? Absolutely not. Are we going to increase your values? I hope so, because we're putting about $110,000 a door development cost into this property. So you're looking at upwards of $8.5 to $9 million into the deal. And it is, our success is based on the income of that community. So we have to, even though there are tax credits involved that we can sell in the open market that will offset some of the equity requirements that go into it, we still have to operate this like a business. If we don't keep these units full and keep the rents high, then we're not going to make any money on it, and we're not in that line of business. We are a for-profit developer. I've been in this business for 22 years. This is my 23rd year, actually, of just affordable housing. And we have built some properties that I'm very, very proud of, that I've been with several developers during that time. I'm very proud of what I do and what I have built. And even though we do touch certain segments of the market, our goal is to maintain the integrity of that property. If someone acts up, they're forced or asked to leave very, very quickly, because we have no tolerance for that type of behavior.
Will there be on-site security?
We don't have a security officer on site, no.
Okay.
But we will have a property manager who will live on site, yes.
Okay. All right, and so for clarification purposes, will there be anything in writing that you can give us beforehand that will state exactly the target demographic that you're looking for that you listed today?
Yeah.
And that this would be part of a contract? So
I can't give you a contract. I can tell you what the application is that's going into the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs,
Sure.
And that'll be public data that's available on the TDHCA's website. I think, about March 15th, they'll have a list out, and our application will be public view, and you can go through our application or any of the other developers here, and you'll be able to see what the target market is. Now, once in the application, once we make that selection to say, here's our target markets, we cannot change it. And so contract of some sorts, that's they do hold us to that. So yes, sir, you'll know exactly what we are planning to target to on about the 15th of March.
Do any of the developers or investors in this live in the surrounding neighborhood of that would be going around Meadows Fall? Do they have any skin in the game personally?
$9 million, yes, sir. That's
No,
a lot
I'm
of
talking
skin.
about their own personal home.
No, our office is in Springfield, Missouri. My office is in San Marcos, Texas.
Because you understand, and it addresses exactly what you said, which is the fear, and I acknowledge that.
Sure.
It is a fear, and it may be unfounded. But if it's not
I understand your
unfounded-
fear, and if I were your neighborhood, I would be asking questions because you don't know this company, you don't know anybody. We're from out of town, and so I'd be asking a lot of questions just to make sure that what's going to be built there is something that you're going to be happy with.
So protection of the investment of all the private investors behind me who are concerned about this, can you address that in any way then? How do they protect their investment if this goes forward?
Well, that's a good question. I don't have an answer for you as to how your neighbors can protect their investment. I mean, the best way you're going to protect your investment is by continuing to upgrade and upkeep the neighborhood. We're going to have a certain contract with the state of Texas and the U.S. government that we have to maintain a certain level in that property.
Is that contract something public that we can look at to see?
Well, it is public. Our program is based on the Internal Revenue Service code that was developed in 1986 under the Ronald Reagan administration. And all of it is public data, as well as the state of Texas. It's a national program, but it's administered by each state. The state of Texas will have an additional set of requirements and restrictions that is public data that is on their website that we have to adhere to. Now, in addition to that, they have site visits that we have to show all of our records. We have to show how we're maintaining. We have to show a number of things, and those happen on a frequent basis that we are visited. And we welcome those visits also.
Only thing I have after this is that I would ask whoever makes the decisions on such things with the city of San Angelo, that when y'all weigh in on the final decision, that you would look around and address that fear. And if you could choose a project that will benefit the community without increasing fears, that would also increase trust in y'all representing us. And I appreciate your time, and thank you.
And I appreciate you coming up. And if we are selected for this property, I would invite you to come during construction, during the leasing, wherever you want. And we'll be glad to answer any questions and show you what we're doing and give you a cook's tour. Okay. I have never built a property that I wasn't proud of, and that one that I wouldn't live in myself. Our properties are often mistaken for market rate properties.
I've seen firsthand where my daughter lives, and
I'm sorry, which one?
I've seen firsthand where my daughter lives,
yes.
and it's nothing that I'm against. It's just a scary thing, and I admit it's fear.
Of
and
course.
my goal is to help protect the investment
Absolutely.
of families there.
Well, we're here to help you alleviate those fears. Okay. And I think you're very much going to like what we build if we're selected in this location. Okay. Every time I build right next to an element, I always target elementaries for one very simple reason. They stay full all of the time. And the reason for that is that mommies want to walk their babies across to the school, and they want to pick them up and bring them back. Our manager will also work as a crossing guard during those times, because when children that their parents are going to be, their working parents, we have no latchkey children. When they come home, they have to come to the manager's office, and we have a separate room for them that they'll stay, they'll do their homework, they'll have various things to do until the parents come and pick them up. If for some reason one of the children doesn't report in, our manager is on the phone to their parents or to the police, one or the other. So we run a very tight security when it comes to our children.
Are you able to offer a community where you've had that model and successful operation, something that we can go online and kind of look around and
I
see
think
if
all
there's
of our properties that are families offer that type of situation.
any way
Yeah.
we can get links to that so we can just do our
It's
own
it's on
research?
if you'll go to willhoytproperties.com, all of our properties are listed on there. We have information of all 15 states that we work in.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Look forward to working with you. I don't think they're finished.
Good evening. I'll try to be brief. My name is Philip Bryant. I am a city planning development consultant. I was the director of city planning in San Angelo, Texas for 10 years, 3 years in Lubbock and Midland prior to that. I understand land use, I understand city planning, and I understand development. I want you to understand completely. I believe firmly as an individual that every American citizen or every American person living in America should have a desirable, comfortable home place to live. I am not opposed to low-income, public housing, whatever you want to call it. What I am opposed to is this, and I will just tell you. The basis of city planning and of all city government is based upon providing for the public safety and the general welfare of the city. If we fail to do that, we have failed, period. There is no exception. There is nothing of economics or amount of money that changes that. Now, the property, and by the way, I should tell you, I'm speaking about the Meadow Falls location across the street from Bottom Elementary School. That fronts on Southland Boulevard. There's a short side street called Mills Pass on the side, which is strictly a residential street. I don't know what your plan would be to ingress and egress that property off of Southland Boulevard, but I do know this, that according to the City of San Angelo Urban Transportation Master Plan, which was developed in the late 60s and the early 70s in conjunction with the State Highway Department and the City of San Angelo, it defines that each residence produces approximately, or on average, 5+ trips per day from that household. That means an automobile from each of these 76 apartment units would leave that apartment 5 times a day. That, and these numbers get to be staggering. That's 380 trips a day, dumping into Southland Boulevard, right across the street from Bowie Elementary School. And that's on a T intersection. If there's a 4-way intersection, there are 9 points of conflict, and that number increases to 3,400 a day. And you put that into the volume of traffic that is on Southland, you're talking about millions of potential conflict points that are a place for a very devastating or fatal accident to the children of the elementary school. Now, I would simply say this, and I've lived in this community since 1966. I'm not a native San Angeloan. I came here in '66. I married a native. My kids are natives.
You escaped to San Angelo. Good for you.
Yeah, but I will say this, that there, and I know the community, I believe, very, very well. There are many, many properties that would be desirable locations for this type of project that are not on this particular site. And I'm suggesting to the city council or to whomever is involved in it that even though this property is zoned multifamily, it should have never been zoned that way. Bowie Elementary School should have never been built next to a major thoroughfare street. But the Bowie School is there. The apartments are not there on the zoning, but this particular site is. It is there. It has many, many desirable uses for land use other than apartments of any kind. your proposal or anyone else's proposal. I simply say this, within light of the public safety and the general welfare, for not only the citizens who would be living in your project if you build it, but for the city of San Angelo as a whole, go find another location.
Okay. Don't sit down, sir.
I'll try to answer any question I can.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you just said.
I said I'll try to answer any question you may have.
Okay. Now, from what I understand, this property does have a PD zoning for 80 apartment units.
That's a mistake. It is, yes, it does. I understand it, but that was a mistake to have been done. And I simply say this, don't continue to compound mistakes that were made in the past.
I tell you what, we have some planners here that may want to address that issue. You want to come up here and maybe address some generalities?
She's making her way up. We'd like everybody in the room to have a chance. So if you would please get to the point quickly.
Yeah.
If you just want council to hear I'm not in favor or I am in favor, it's okay to say that. We have some council members in the room, but we do want everybody to have a chance without this stretching.
Thank you, sir.
I too will be brief. My name is Rebecca Guerra. I'm the planning manager, so I'll answer very basic questions about this property. This property is indeed zoned plan development, and all that means is just like every piece of property has a zoning designation like residential or commercial or industrial, this one is called plan development because unlike all those other zoning districts, this one has conditions of approval that can be added. So in this case, when this was rezoned, and I believe it was rezoned in 2014 to plan development, it had as one of the approved uses multifamily. Well, along with that multifamily was, if I remember, I think it was between 8 or 10 conditions of approval, which kind of restricted how this property could develop. But because of that plan never came forward, they never built those condos that were proposed. The concept plan, that site plan that everybody saw here at City Council when that project was approved, when the zoning was approved, now that concept plan has to be redone. And so as part of that concept plan being redone, if this project gets the funding and if this project decides to move forward, you all are going to have an opportunity to look at that again. So you're going to have a chance the zoning will be open and you have a chance to look at the conditions of approval that are associated with it and the concept plan, so you'll see how everything's laid out. So that's some very basic information I can give you about the property itself. Does anybody have any questions regarding zoning for this property or any other property? Okay, I'm going to go sit down.
Thank you. Thank you, Bridget. Do we have any other comments? Please step forward.
Hello, my name is Mary Escobar, and I currently live in the area that we're speaking about on Southland.
Meadow Falls?
Meadow Falls, yes. I personally have lived in Bentry Apartments, not by choice, but because my life circumstances put me there. I was in college at the time, a single parent, and I had a child. I lived there for 3 years, and I know for a fact, I'm not sure when they implemented the whole no child left alone until their parents got home, but that never took place at Bentry during the time that I was there. There was a lot of activity that went on at that complex. My son was not allowed to play outside alone because of the type of activity that happened. I was very glad the day I graduated, I moved. And I'm very thankful that I have a beautiful home now in the area that I live in, and I want to be able to protect it. I'm not against low-income housing, obviously. I was there at one point in time in my life, but I do not support the decision to place that housing in that area.
Anybody else? Please come on up.
My name is Tim Rich, and I live in the area of the Meadow Falls Apartments. My concern is, as the gentleman spoke just a few minutes ago, if anybody's ever been in that area, it is very congested on school days, and there's children that walk to and from school, and if you're adding 78 apartments to that, and the traffic into that area, I think you're making a potential disaster because of the traffic situation by itself. It's bad as it is. In the afternoons, cars are lined up not only down Southland, but also along Mills Pass, waiting to pick their kids up. You're adding 78 apartments there. You're now adding all that traffic to the mix. Plus, you have kids walking all back and forth to school. I think you're setting up a potential hazardous situation for the children and for people that are traveling in those areas. So I have no problem with low-income housing, but I don't like the idea of it being right there at a school because I think you put children at risk. And I don't think the city of San Angelo wants that. And I know the people whose kids go to that school don't want that either.
Anybody else? Any comments on Cherry Trails? Okay. Yep.
John Rendon, a point of clarification. For the tax credit, you're looking for approval for one facility here in San Angelo?
Yes, they will compete with two from Midland. So,
So
there'll be
these
8 total
six are in the running for the tax credit?
for one.
For
yes.
one, okay,
One,
all right,
one,
so,
one project
all
will
right.
win it.
All right. Well, I'm opposed to you locating it at the Meadow Falls for a lot of the same reasons that the people mentioned earlier. The traffic is very, very busy. I've seen there's another elementary school in the area. I don't know if there's land available there or not, but there's not the traffic on Southland that there is in front of our elementary school. So I think it's very short-sighted to try to locate in this particular vicinity, and I would appreciate it if you reconsidered. Thank you.
Well, those are very good concerns, and I think that every public meeting I go to, that is the biggest issue that people come up with. Paul, you're going to inundate us with traffic. Children are going to get killed. People are going to get run over. It's just going to be the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. I don't think there's one city council meeting that I have been to that wasn't the main concern and the main issue. And we do traffic studies. We have traffic engineers come out. We really do and spend a lot of money on traffic engineering. We have, I think, 32 communities in the state of Texas. Now, 32 times, everyone's had this very same concern as well. If I told you the other concerns that people have said in other cities, you would be going, oh, dear God, seriously. But they do. Now, I have not had one of our communities that we've had a traffic engineer do the study on and has said, Paul, the streets and traffic are adequate to handle this type of community. We've not had a death. We've not had an accident. We've not had anything else as a result of our community being in that location. It is a fear that people have. There was a fear, from what I understand, from the last developer who was proposing in this area about traffic. But if there was a Walmart on this site, would it be any different? You'd rather have the Walmart? Okay. You don't want a Walmart. Something's going to go there, ladies and gentlemen. It is a $1 million piece of property, and someone is going to buy that. And it may be commercial, it may be residential. It is not going to be single family. But what's going to happen is that, as your other developer that came here, who did a traffic study, we're going to do another traffic study because he had 80 units proposed. We're going to do a little less. There will be a less of an impact on it. But I understand your concerns, and I appreciate it, and we're going to do everything possible to mitigate that. Yes, sir.
My name is Eric Sanchez, and I live in the Presswood Edition, along with my wife, Mary. One concern that I have is this a two-story?
It's a two-story garden-style property, yes.
With balconies?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know where
We'll
the
have
balcony.
some balconies.
Well, some balconies. Well, from what I can see, it looks like it's going to butt up to the existing homes there and the fence line that runs down
There
there.
is a very big buffer between the buildings and your property. It's 150, 200 feet, something of that nature.
And then my concern is that buffer is still not going to be enough. If it was a one-story shopping center, you know, with a wall that went there for those homes that butt up right against the property line, I live probably on the corner of the property line where y'all are going in, and I know if it's a two-story building, people are going to be able to look into my backyard and see what I'm doing. I know most of those people are concerned about that, about what people out on their balconies going to be looking down and see what they're doing. If you put a one-story shopping center, they can't do that because the back of the wall is just solid, you know, and that's another concern that the citizens had in that area.
Sure, that is a concern. I'm not.
A little privacy concern.
Well, we will be putting up a privacy fence. We will be landscaping the area between, because we're going to put up some rather large landscaping that will grow tall, that will help mitigate that problem. We're going to do everything possible so that your safety and security and everything is going to be as protected as we possibly can. Landscaping is one of the best ways that we put bamboo there. It's going to grow 30 feet tall. And when mature, you'll have a lot of privacy. Yes, sir.
Honestly, for a two-story building, I don't think you can put anything that's that high that keeps, you know, from a shopping center that's one story, keeps those people having their privacy like they had when they originally got there, hoping that, you know, something like wouldn't go there. And this is the issue we had back when the other project was proposed. So I'll
Well,
just
if you had a
leave it at that.
one-story shopping center, it would be butted up right by your house
Yeah,
too.
but it would be
You
it would have
you
a,
would be
probably
right
have a
on
solid,
top of each other,
solid
sir.
back wall, and
Not
you know,
necessarily. You wouldn't.
well, I mean, I think it'd still be something
You
that they
probably
could look
would, but
in.
no, I understand your concern, and I understand what you're saying. We're going to try to do everything possible to protect your privacy, sir.
Thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for talking. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I never like to get in a situation where I'm the target. Now, we have 5 other developers here now. Honestly, they can come up here and take a few shots, but yes, I understand. I will keep my answers short, but I want to tell you that I enjoy the conversations back and forth because I appreciate your concerns. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Theodore Johnson. I also live where the near the Meadows Falls Apartments proposal, and I understand y'all have 6 different other companies vying for
5.
the tax, or 5. Is only one going to be selected out of the 6?
Well, there are a total of 8.
Okay.
There are 2 in Midland, and there are the rest of them are here in San Angelo.
Right.
There will be 1.
that gets the tax credit. But would that stop?
Yes.
If y'all don't get the tax credit, will you still develop? Just
No, we
pay?
can't. The reason for that is that without the tax credits to bring in a portion of the equity, it's no longer financially feasible. To do we don't do market rate product.
Okay.
It wouldn't be feasible for us to try to build a property. No, sir.
Well, and also, stop, distract me. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So, I live in that area. I'm a first-time homeowner.
Oh, good.
And my
Congratulations.
concern is that the property value is going to go down, or the resale will be difficult because you guys are not just building this development, but you're building at the entrance of a lot of our entire neighborhood.
Right.
So the first thing that any buyer is going to see is that, okay, there's this housing development, and not only that, it's also low-income housing. And
No one will ever drive by that property and make that comment.
they may not be able to see it visually at first for the first few years.
Think they will? Yes, they will. Ooh, I've never had that happen in any of my properties.
I mean,
ever.
all properties deteriorate over time,
Well,
especially
they
when
do.
you have a high
Yeah, so
traffic.
homes do also. Yes.
Homes do as well, but when you have 3 homeowners in one home over 15 years versus hundreds of different rental properties where people move out yearly,
Yeah.
the rundown is a lot quicker, and it shows in the property. And I don't want that to be the first thing people see when
Right.
it's ready, when I'm ready to move and resell my property.
Nor do we, because we're going to own this property for a very long time. And I always like people when they're clapping. I think you're clapping for me, and I appreciate that. Oh, hang on. We feel the very same way because if we don't maintain this property, we're going to lose big bucks. I've never seen this company sell a property. I've seen them in it to them for 30 years, and they maintain them, and they really look good at 30 years later. Yes, sir. Now, I know these are hollow words coming out because
there's no telling what's going to happen.
There's not, and we're as concerned about the neighborhood as you are about us. If we have a deteriorating neighborhood surrounding us, that is a huge problem for us. So we're going to try to work with the neighborhood because we want our property values to be maintained as you want your property values to be maintained.
The other thing is you mentioned the demographics that you're going to have to come out with in, what did you say, March?
Well, it's not going to be a demographic study. It's going to be our application is going to go into the state, and it's going to tell you
the type of tenants that you guys.
No, it's not going to be the type of tenant. It's just going to be the income requirements of that tenant base.
Do the neighborhood or the people you're building this around have any influence in that?
Well, we don't bus people in, so it's going to be residents that are from that area that will be leasing there. Yes,
criteria,
sir.
do we have any voice in that?
No, it's based on the state's criteria, and so they set the rules.
I mean, I'm new here, so I don't know who our representative is that represents that area, if they're here.
Yeah, she's in the very back, yes.
All right. So, I don't want the property there. What steps will we have to take as a community to make sure that doesn't happen?
The property's not built there? Oh, I can't answer that one. I've turned over to Bob for that one.
The process is this. We have a town hall meeting. We get to get the input. We go to council on the 20th. Again, you contact your council member, express your concerns. At that point, the council member will vote whether or not they want to support that project. And that's simple as once they approve it, at that point, it goes forward to compete. Doesn't mean you're going to win because there's 8 total in this region that are competing, and every point counts. So that's how it works. Okay. Let me ask you: is there anybody here for Cherry Trails? Anybody concerned with Cherry Trails?
Someone talk about Cherry Trails now.
Come to the front, please, and make a comment. Make bigger comments, sir.
If it's not your project,
I get your name?
so be it. Philip Bryant,
Yes, sir.
4130 Huntley Drive. I'm familiar with Cherry Trail's location, and I walk that area through the brush and whatnot frequently. I think that is by far a better location.
For elderly, one-story duplexes.
Whatever.
Okay.
I mean, you could put a high-rise there.
All right.
You know, a high-rise would be better there than.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other Cherry Trails? No other Cherry Trails. Okay, back to Meadow Falls. Any other Meadow Falls? Anything new? In other words, if you're kind of repeating the same thing, it may not be. You may want to go ahead and.
How you doing, sir?
Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Matinchek. I'm also concerned about the Meadow Falls Apartments. My question is the buffer zone between Meadow Falls Apartments and the houses that are adjacent. Is there any futuristic plans to build on that area?
No, you can't.
Okay.
No, once we submit, you got it? Oh, don't we have a better?
Yes.
Better drawing than that? Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm sorry. It's kind of small to see. Could you erase? Yeah. Now, I don't know the distance between there, but what I've done is I've intentionally pushed everything forward to get it away from the neighborhood as much as possible. Now, what happens is that when we submit our application, it will have a site plan in there that's going to mirror this. Once that is in the application, it cannot be changed. You cannot build anything else on that property once the funding is set in place. Nothing. Landscaping, but that's all. And there will be landscaping and fencing along the property line where the neighborhood is. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My second question is regarding the landscaping. I'm a proud owner of my home. I try to keep my landscaping up as good as possible, but we all know with San Angelo and the heat, it's almost impossible to keep your yard in superb shape. What guarantees do we have as far as the welfare of the landscaping, if so proposed, to be put up as a in that buffer zone?
I don't think I understood your question.
The 30-foot
Yeah.
bamboo landscaping
Or
that you're
whatever it may be,
referencing.
something tall, yes.
Is there any guarantees as far as if that landscaping, or if they were able to start seeing into the backyards of those single-family homes, is there any guarantees as far as the upkeep of landscaping that you will have at that at Meadow Falls Apartments to ensure that vision stays
maintained?
there?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, we can make that a part of the PD requirements for zoning.
Okay. Thank you. And I do not wish to have this built.
Now, let me ask you, is there anyone besides me in this city hall tonight that would say, I don't think that's a bad idea, Paul. It's probably going to look pretty good, and we're going to have people there, and it's going to be good. Oh, now that disappoints me, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, Rocky Templin. My concern for City Council will be, will there be any studies as far as Bottom Elementary School and the amount of kids that will go there, and then also fire, emergency, ambulance, and rescue? Because if there's an accident at your entrance right there, you will block that off.
Right.
And the time response will be greatly where people's lives could be at risk.
Right. There is always every city I go to, the fire department requires us to have a second exit and entrance, that they have I think they call it a knock box, that it's not an entrance and exit that people that live in our property can go in and out. It's a gate that's across that is locked. And if there is a situation like that, the fire department will come there, they knock the lock off of it, they can enter and exit as they need to. So yes, that's...
Well, I don't think that will resolve the problem on Southland if there's an accident on your exit.
Well, there can be a lot of things. What was your name again?
Rocky.
Rocky, there's a lot of situations that can happen. If we had to life flight somebody in or out, we could certainly do that. I can't give you answers to every scenario that you're going to come up with tonight, but we'll be working with all the city staff. They'll have a DRC meeting with all of the heads of different departments. They'll review everything and make their input. If they see a dangerous situation, they won't let it be built. But the fire department and all the heads will be there, and they're going to make sure that every precaution is taken so that that situation does not happen.
Does that include the independent school district?
They are typically not there, but I have had some conversations with the school district, and the school district will comment when they comment.
Okay.
But we have given them all the information, just the same as we have here tonight. We've given to the school district, yes.
I'm not in favor of Meadow Falls either. So.
Now, Rocky, come on now. I'm starting to get a complex, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead.
Okay, do we have any other comments on Cherry Trail so Councilwoman DeWitt can meet her next appointment? Okay, yeah, go ahead. If not, how about other... Councilwoman DeWitt, would you like to make a comment before you leave, or you certainly offer the microphone? Coming up to the microphone. Yeah, but we can't catch you on the recording, and I'm lazy, so we're using that for my note, for my minutes. So.
The opportunity. I tried to introduce myself to everybody that came in. I'm sure I missed some of you, but I do want to say that I appreciate the feedback that you've given tonight, expressing how you feel about the proposed project. I have gotten a lot of emails. I've lost count, but I've gotten a lot of emails, maybe from some of you sitting in the audience, sharing your thoughts on what would happen with the Meadow Falls apartment project. And I want you to know I appreciate that. Some of them have not been so nice to me, but you know, it's important that we as citizens express how we feel about things that are being proposed for our city. So I do want to say thank you. I appreciate it. I believe it's the 20th of February, you said, that this will be brought before the council, and we will be voting on whether or not we as a city leadership support the one project, two projects, or all six. So if you can make the city council meeting, we welcome you to be there. Thank you, and thanks again for being here tonight. Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on to the other projects. Anything on Tuick Plaza downtown? Any comments on that? Everybody's okay with that? A few folks are leaving. Well, I guess most of them were for Meadow Falls. So, Tuick Plaza. Anything on Tuick Plaza?
Hi, my name is Del Velasquez. I'm with downtown San Angelo.
Hold on a second.
And
Keep it down, please. Please. Keep it down. Go ahead. We have a speaker.
yes, I have some questions about the TUIG project. Obviously, we have some issues relative to parking, and I wanted to know what the proposal is in addressing that issue.
Thank you. Can I get the developer, please? Mike? Parking at Tuick Plaza.
Hello, my name is Michael Fogel with Four Corners Development. Hey, Dell. There is, I'm not sure if it's on that, we can pull up a map. There is an empty lot adjacent to the San Angelo National Bank building. There's currently a concrete, not retaining wall, but a concrete wall that shields that lot, so you can't see it from street level. But there was a building there that burned down, I don't know, maybe a decade ago. And there's kind of a pit and a hole in the ground right there. We are actually, if we're able to successfully purchase the bank building, we also have an agreement to purchase that lot and improve it and bring it back to the streetscape, and that will be a parking lot to serve the building.
How many parking spaces would that your proposal bring?
I don't know exactly, but I think we could get it at least 50 parking spaces in there.
Okay. And the entranceway to that parking would be coming in from where?
I think we're actually gonna be able to. Well, right now it would be off of. Well, it'd be out the back rear. It's possible to have an entry off of Chadburn, but there's not a curb cut there, so we would actually try to bring it from the other parking lot that's on the rear of the building, which is on Tuick.
Right. And that parking lot is, are you going to purchase that parking lot as well?
We're attempting to, yes.
Okay.
But the parking lot itself, we do have an agreement to purchase.
The vacant lot that's sitting next to the bank building.
Yeah,
right.
Paul Adam and those guys call it the pit.
Yeah, and my concern there as well is that property, that parking lot, is tied to another property that I know is not actually for sale at this point in time, and the property owner, I'm pretty sure, is not going to sell the parking lot without selling the additional property that goes with that lot.
Right.
So I don't see how you're going to be successful doing that in terms of just addressing the parking. How many apartments or units are you going to be looking at on the TUIG building?
That building,
the old San Angelo National Bank building.
Probably around 36 to 42 units.
Okay. So there's not going to be enough parking to accommodate that many units.
I disagree. I think it'll be pretty well parked. It'll have its own dedicated parking lot right there, and it's possible some guests and stuff, and there will be some street parking. But in order to get households and rooftops downtown in an urban environment, which is I think a benefit to the urban core and what we're trying to accomplish here, you're not going to build a giant parking garage or anything like that. You will get some parking via an adjacent parking lot, which which we have an agreement to get that, and there will be at least one parking space, per unit.
Okay, and is that part of the financial that you're investing in along with, or you're asking for the credits based on, for that property as well, or is just the San Angelo National Bank building, or is that a separate deal?
It's the parking lot would be with the building in the same deal, if you will, and the finances would be together.
And how many units are going to be going in at the Junior League building?
The Junior League building would be fewer, probably no more than 24. But as we've spent more time looking at it, I don't foresee us moving forward with the Junior League building. I think our focus would be on Tuick Plaza.
So you're eliminating the Junior League building? Is that what I'm hearing?
Probably, but not certainly.
Okay. And so the parking, and if I heard you correctly.
There's no about 20 in there?
Yeah. Okay. So am I hearing you correctly? The parking for the Junior League building was also going to be tied into the parking that you're building for the old San Angelo National Bank building?
It would have been, but like I said, I don't think we'll move forward with the Junior League building.
Well, obviously that's a concern. The parking in downtown is a concern,
right,
for us, as well as the property values, which we've discussed, relative to the development of that particular building, the old San Angelo National Bank building, being limited in that development. Can you tell me in terms of, or what you're expecting to spend per square footage in that building?
I'm going to make our numbers guy answer that. This is Adam Horton.
Yeah, my name's Adam Horton with Four Corners Development, and as Michael said, we're still scrubbing the numbers on there. I think typically on something like that, you'd see $75,000, $85,000 per unit in rehab cost. There would be construction cost there. You'd obviously have your architect fees, your other related costs that would go in there, but that would be the hard construction cost that would go there. And my experience has told me, we've seen a lot of cities across America kind of utilize the historic tax credits as a way to really revitalize downtown, and we've seen a lot of them revitalize, putting them together with low-income housing tax credits. And while that's not going to be necessarily the big driver, the catalyst, we think our project would bring 30 to 40 households downtown. And they do have limited income. It is affordable, but they do have income. And their 30 or 40 households, they have more disposable income than an empty building has. And so, parking's definitely a concern. We can't get our building permits unless we have it addressed to code, and so that's definitely something that we would work for. If we don't have a place to park, the residents are not. I know that my mom and grandma would not want to go someplace they couldn't park, and so that's definitely something we would take into consideration. But
Okay, I'm just want to get some clarification. You're saying affordable housing for seniors?
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
So you're targeting the senior demographic.
Correct.
Okay. And so in terms of rent, I guess is right. What are you looking for to charge and bill?
Yeah, those rents are driven. We go through as they talked about before, we pick out the certain targeted incomes, and it's limited to 30% there. I think the rents are going to wind up somewhere around the $450, $500 for a one-bedroom, $600, $700 for a two-bedroom. We're still finalizing those final numbers, but they'll be somewhat there and competitive. So,
well, one of my concerns is that in the revitalization process, is that we need folks that are going to be living downtown, that are going to have disposable income to support the restaurants, the retail, just every aspect of it, medical, everything that goes into developing a downtown area. And my understanding is that when we have these types of developments, they don't create that type of disposable income that supports the businesses? Do you have any numbers on that that you could share?
I mean, we can look to see what we can provide. Again, I would go back to, the building's currently empty and been empty 20 plus years, I think. And so, I think Michael and our team has toured numerous buildings downtown looking for that perfect building. And so there's definitely an abundance of old buildings that can be done. And so we're just wanting one of those buildings. And again, our households are not wealthy by any means, but they definitely have the income that'll visit the restaurants, the gift shops, those types of things. So while it may not be the ideal as an attorney or a doctor living in a loft apartment downtown, it's better than nothing. And there are lots of other buildings, I think, that hopefully get filled in after this one does.
But also, aren't you tied into a long-term commitment in terms of getting the historic tax credits, et cetera? How long are you tied into that building?
Let me answer your previous question quickly first. I guess two things there. As far as disposable income for downtown households, there are many vacant buildings downtown, and we're proposing to just turn one of those empty buildings into a populated place. And for that reason, I don't think it would prevent other households with more disposable income from also developing downtown, and hopefully we'll see some developers proposing that as well. And secondly, as far as foot traffic and business to the retailers and restaurants, our community also provides a place for those people who work there to live. So I think it's important to have a live and work downtown community, and that takes a workforce to support that as well. Hourly employees who work at restaurants and other small businesses in the area.
Okay, so it's not just senior. Is that? I thought it was just going to be senior.
It is senior, but senior is 55 plus, so it's active adult.
Okay.
People don't retire at 55 anymore for the most part.
I'm going to go back to the property values. Can you tell me? First off, let me go back to the question I just asked in terms of the long term. How long do you have to hold on to that building before you flip it, or?
There's a minimum requirement tied to the tax credits of 15 years.
15 years.
Yes,
so for 15 years, we are. I don't want. We're locked into affordable housing in a building that, to be quite honest, I think is a critical building for our downtown development in terms of creating an economic impact that we're looking for. And that affordable housing does not bring to the table, especially that particular building. And that's where my concern is.
Well, I guess, like I said, there's a lot of vacant buildings. The Beauregard Tower, the Townhouse Hotel / Naylor Building, the Trust Building, and these projects, both ours and some of the ones that I think you're referring to, hopefully down the road, and I'm sure it will come. They take a long time, and we're just proposing one building that has been vacant for a very long time, and we're working with the owners of that building, who are business owners, the Trimble Bacher Insurance Company, and they're actually going to remain the owners of the first 2 floors, and we're only buying floors 3 through 8. So we're working very closely with a downtown business who's very vested in the future of downtown, and they employ about 24, as many as 30 employees on the first 2 floors of that building. And so with on a 15-year time frame, if some of these other vacant buildings do start developing, that will take some time. Maybe not 15 years, but as some of those other buildings get built out and developed, that will take 5 to 10 years at least, and then our building could come offline and at that point, 15 years, be transferred to the market rate.
I don't have any questions. Yes, and we do oppose the moving forward of that particular project for that building.
Hello, my name is Lane Puckett. I'm with Downtown San Angelo. I'm going to reiterate a lot what Dell said. I don't want to be redundant, but I do feel like that these projects are led by example. We're about to have the Roosevelt Hotel come online. I just don't want to see the trend keep moving on with these affordable housing units as the years come on. We need the economic sustainability of downtown is hard enough with the renovations that come on that it takes to make these buildings work. And so I'm a very big proponent of having, I hate to say, upper end housing to start the deal, so that we can have the help to come in downtown and the traffic and for the shops and for the restaurant owners to come downtown, because I know a lot of the restaurant owners and shop owners are seeing a lot of the I don't remember the name of the loft that's right by Wells Fargo, but they're seeing a lot of those tenants come down, shop, and all that. And that's what we're really wanting to see, is we want to see the master plan grow. And I feel like with this project, it's gonna put a bad stain on downtown for the overall project of the master plan of the city of San Angelo. Can y'all address any of those issues? That's my main deal, is we want to see traffic with people moving downtown, because the sustainability of downtown is not viable without that.
Sure. So the sustainability of downtown, I think, is dependent upon a population, and I understand what you're saying about a higher income population has more disposable income. I don't see it as mutually exclusive. There's a lot of opportunity there, and you alluded to it in the beginning of your question about the difficulty of these projects. They are very expensive and very difficult, and especially early in the not revitalization cycle, but residential development cycle for downtown, because there are not a lot of rooftops there, and with the prices that some of these buildings are commanding, which are pretty hefty, it's developers, the first ones in, oftentimes have to utilize a whole ladder of kind of incentives and tax credits in order to make it feasible and get those rooftops. And it oftentimes, as a catalyst, takes the first tax credit developer to show the way and let the market rate guys come in after.
And I get that. I think with the Tuig Plaza or the old San Angelo National Bank, that is a key building of downtown, and I'm a little leery of that building being done for that project personally.
Well, so that building is actually already on the National Historic Register, and it will stay on the National Historic Register. And we will be working with the State and National Historic Commission. And as part of that process, we have to maintain the historic facade and beauty of that building. And anything we do can only improve it. We can't come in and change the appearance or try to modernize the exterior, anything like that. And if you look at that building now, you see a beautiful building though, but with empty corridors that you can see. If you're sitting out of the patio at Twisted Root, you see an empty building.
Right.
And we're proposing to put $75,000 per door of just hard cost, a higher number, total project cost into that. It's still a high quality residential development, and it's the appearance is going to be pleasing.
The same. And I think part of my problem with it is that the residents that you're going to go after aren't going to help sustain the revitalization of downtown, because it's hard enough as it is already. And I think what we're trying to push is where we can have the downtown living will push those downtown residents, will help push the Sunday through Thursday crowd that won't Friday, Saturday is packed, but we're really big on the Sunday through Thursday crowd, and that's what we're really trying to push. And I just, from my perspective, I don't see how that's gonna help. That type of living is gonna help that Sunday through Thursday crowd.
Well, this isn't Section 8 or public housing. We're still talking about residents that have income and some disposable income, and right now there's no one living in that building or in the surrounding buildings. So
It doesn't mean that there wouldn't be another project at some point in the future that might get there to do that.
Of course, but,
right.
You can say that about any building.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't see it as mutually exclusive.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on downtown?
Hi, I'm Eric Hagemeyer. It's a little short for me. We're a business development as well as a high-end specialty gift retail store. It's been in San Angelo for just over 30 years. When we first moved downtown, there was nothing there. So I'm still trying to get my head around the thing of, it's better than what's already there comment. No, this is not better than what's already there. We've got plans. I've been on downtown development boards that travel all over the state of Texas, and we found out what other towns have done, things and mistakes that they've made, things that they don't want to happen again. If you go to the Domain, if you go to the Hotel Emma in San Antonio, we're talking about high-end development. We're talking about things that have to happen within a downtown district, an area that is looking for redevelopment, not just to have people. Just because it's better than what's there, that's not what we want. I'm not against this residential living. What I'm against is the poverty level or below, or not just the poverty, but the level of what you're saying. Dell, you were talking about that building over there, and next to it is like 50 feet by 90 feet. Well, it's what I looked it up. It's 50 by 90, maybe 100. You can only get a 9-foot parking spot. So there's 9, 50 feet wide. I was looking at the overall bumper to bumper to cars. That's 75 feet. We're talking about a 50-foot area. So you're only going to run maybe 10 or 12 as far as it looks. I mean, I could be wrong. Engineering could tell that. But what I'm saying, and my aunt, believe it or not, my aunt owns the property, the parking lot, that you would need the easement to go through. And I know she will never sell. And if she ever did sell, I can't speak for her, but it would be way beyond what you guys would be willing to pay. What we want to do is within this area, we want to have high-end development. We don't want to have medium or average. For us, our sustainability, for over 30 years of being here and seeing how San Angelo's grown, just because a building's vacant, that doesn't mean it's better than what's there. It's vacant because we're trying to figure out the best case scenario to put there for the best success for our downtown. We've came a long way. We've got several $1 million that my family's put in downtown. And if I stay here, it's going to be several $1 million more. But if we put in this kind of development, I guarantee you I'm going to start thinking differently or twice on any property that I buy in the future, or if I bring investors in and I'm going to build something, condos or something similar, that's going to be $60,000, $75,000 above median income. What I'm looking for is people that want to invest $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 per unit as a condo or a high-end, what do you want to call, a boutique type hotel, something nice. Now, if we just put these, and you're talking about one of the most beautiful buildings, in my opinion, of downtown San Angelo, you're going to put that into this, well, we're taking it off the market for the rest of our lifetime for it to be something nice. With all the malls failing, and ours is getting there, those businesses are going to come downtown, and they're going to want someplace to invest. So if we tie up these really nice buildings that could be something really great in retail, entertainment, restaurants, we're killing ourselves. We're shooting ourselves in the foot. So if you guys find something else outside a historic district as what we have, that's fine. But as far as the historic district, where you want to be in this designation, in this area, I'm sorry, I'm out.
I wanted to make 2 more points. They just remind me of. One of them is that the city of San Angelo had a master plan that was developed through a consultant, and nowhere in there does it talk about bringing in low-income housing or affordable housing as far as the development of the project. The other point I wanted to make, which Eric just reminded me, is that financing is going to be difficult for other projects based on low rents that are going to be developed through this project. So it's going to stifle our abilities to do the other buildings that we need to have developed as far as some of the housing as well. So I just wanted to make that point.
Before we get too much later, I got some calls and some emails on a couple of the other projects. We had some concern about the Balcony Flats on the north side of town. Basically, the fact that we've been building our low-income housing tax credits in the north side of town, and therefore we should spread them out. That was the comment. I also had some phone calls on. They wanted us to support Goodfellow, and there's a couple of projects here. Happens to be the Trails and Glen Park Apartments. They wanted us to support that, so I told them I would bring it up in this council. They couldn't make it tonight, but I went ahead and spoke for them. They say we should concentrate on focusing on support for our military, and those two projects would be ideal. So I'll bring that up. Any other comments on any other projects?
Yeah, my name is Richard Ringel, and I live close to the Bel Air district. And if you notice, all of those streets are real narrow. Put more people in there, usually one car can go by there. Have an emergency, it's hard to get an ambulance, fire trucks through there. Also, in the 2600 block, builder had that lot. The reason he didn't build, because he's going to have to improve the street. So that was going to come money out of your pocket. So the builder's going to have to pay for that, whoever builds the apartments there. The crime rate, I lost count of how many stuff that I lost the back of my yard, bicycles from my kids, my grandkids, motorbikes, lawnmowers, and you say, well, keep your gates locked. They're locked. Have dogs in your backyard. Had pet dogs. I did. They still got in. Bulldogs, they still got in. And they're still getting in. I used to have a company truck park up there on the side of the street. They used to hit it just about once a week or once a month or twice a month. The district for the police person that takes care of that is Unit 132. It's a big district for him to patrol. And getting all those low-income housing, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe have to move out of there. I just retired, and there's a lot of retired people that live on those streets. And the crime rate, you won't believe what it is. I mean, a lot of the people don't even report it to the police.
Sure.
The stuff that I had stolen, all the bicycles, lawnmowers, dirt bikes, I reported the majority of them. Did that help? No. I didn't get any of the stuff back. There's elderly people that people go into their yards at night, and they're afraid even to go outside now, much less with bringing those low-income houses. No telling what's going to happen to us.
Well, I could tell you. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're done yet.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's required that the developers, when they lease up, they do background checks. I believe that's correct, right? It's a requirement. So the people that are coming in don't have the criminal history that you would probably find elsewhere. So you do have some vetting on criminality. Hopefully that will reduce your concern a little bit. So they do that, and every project does that. So whoever wins it, it's one of the requirements. As far as the street goes, I'm not sure what the plan is. If maybe the developer want to come up here and mention if there's any way to. Do you have any plans for the street enlargement? You want to come talk to it?
Well, thank you very much. My name is Chris Applequist, Generation Housing Development. What was your name again?
Richard Ringel.
Richard, okay. Yeah, so you know, when we look at development, there's a number of things we have to address, right? I mean, we do road improvements quite often. We did a deal a little while back in Fort Worth. We built a new road. I mean, it was 4 lanes, divided median. We spent $600,000 on that. There's water and sewer issues that we'll probably have to look at. We'll have to increase capacity. As you know, there's some drainage issues there, so we'll have to address that as well. So, I mean, it's sort of a holistic look when we look at the property that a number of things have to fall in line and actually work. There was a point made about the lease up, right? I mean, in terms of crime, if you have an issue in your neighborhood, we have an issue too, right? We have an aligned interest to make sure that the neighborhood is safe and that we're working together to make sure that there's a place where people want to live, they can feel safe, and we're improving the community. You know, if there's an issue where there's, you know, some problem residents that are stealing your stuff, like, let's get together and talk, right? We can hire a security guard. We can pay, you know, a part-time cop to, you know, add some patrols. But I mean, those are things that we can work together on. You know, and really, it's just about being a good neighbor, you know. But yeah, there's things we need to work at, and this is a long process. It probably takes us 2 to 3 years to get this put together, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Okay, but I have lived there for almost 50 years. And like I said, stuff like that been going off and on for years. And like I said, the police do help, but the patrolman that patrols that area, it's a big area, and he can't be there all the time, 24 hours, to check on stuff. And it's a big route.
Sure. I mean, it's a problem. We need to address it. You know?
Stolen stuff that I had through the years, they never found anything that was stolen from my house.
I think the point is this development is not going to increase the crime in that area. We're not saying that you won't get robbed again or stuff stolen from you, but this development will have tenants that are, in fact, law-abiding. They've been vetted. So I don't think we should be concerned about increasing the crime in your area.
How about the value of the properties around there?
And again, I forgot to mention earlier, but you know, the way they check values is not they don't compare your house with an apartment. It's not part of the decision-making process on how you're going to appraise some property. It's going to be based on other houses similar to yours. That's how they come up with a value in your house and appraisals and those kind of things. It's not based on rental properties. So doesn't affect your numbers. What I'm saying.
If I was to sell or put my house on the market, people will come look at it. Oh, okay. What do you have around? Low-income housing? Oh, okay, we're going to look for someplace else.
Well, what they'll look is not so much low-income housing. They'll look at the property, so the status of that property. And if the property is well maintained and kept, it won't affect your property values. I mean, that's according to the appraisal district. So, thank you.
I disapprove of it.
You disapprove? You don't? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Any more comments on any of the projects?
Mike Matinchek again about the Meadow Falls Apartments. So one quick question I had was, with the variation of prices per unit for each project, I know for the 2 Hague Plaza, they were estimating between $75,000 and $80,000 per unit. I don't know how solid that is, but how much of a factor does that play as far as choosing which project gets selected out of the 8 total from a price per unit?
Okay, so you're asking, does the QAP identify that criteria?
Yes.
I don't know. Anybody answer? Any developers? It probably does not.
Okay. So. And then one more. The extensive, how extensive are the background checks that we're talking about? And in reference to Meadow Falls Apartments, I'm sure this question's been brought up several times in the past, but as far as sex offenders or any type of
I'll let the
thank you.
answer that.
You're about the 600th person that's asked me that question. I had one lady stood up one night and she says, "Where are you going to put all the pedophiles?" I mean, how do you answer a question like that? I wanted to say Building 9 right next to your house, but I didn't. We have an extensive background check. And the federal rules will not allow any sex offender that has on the list to rent in our properties, any of our properties, any tax credit property in the whole country. So no. Well, it doesn't matter if it's close to a school; they're just not allowed to lease in our properties. Yes, you're right. They do. So to answer your question, no, we do extensive background checks, probably more than we probably have to. But, you know, we have to maintain this property for a very long time, and we want to make sure the people who live there are going to be quality tenants.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Okay, it's getting a little bit late, so we still have a little bit of time for a few more comments, questions, snide remarks, or just... Okay. Well, in that case, we'll close it down. I want to thank you all for coming, and look forward to seeing you all on the 20th, City Council.